Alright guys, this is going to be our format for finishing Number the Stars, our read aloud that we began before spring break. This is an amazing journey of our two friends, Anne-Marie and Ellen, and I want us to make sure that we are able to finish this story, finish this journey with these girls before you come back from our extended break. This first video right here is not going to be me rereading chapters 1 through 7. I'm more or less going to be talking you guys through the book, or through chapters 1 through 7, as I go over some of those key facts and important details. That way on my next video, when I'm rereading chapter 8, we can jump right back into the details. Or jump right back into the reading, I apologize. So, we begin in chapter 1, where we are learning the background about these girls. We are learning about Anne-Marie and Ellen Rosen. We remember that Anne-Marie and Ellen are best of friends living in the Nazi-occupied Copenhagen, Denmark during the World War II time period. We know that Anne-Marie and her sister Kirsty live in the same apartment building as Ellen Rosen and her family. We also know that Ellen is a little girl of the Jewish faith. And at this time period, we know that the Nazi group did not like Jewish people, and they actually did their best to make Jewish life as hard for these people as possible. Now in chapter 1, Ellen and Anne-Marie are running down the street having just a friendly race game with each other when they run into Nazi soldiers, and Ellen immediately freezes out of fear because she does not know how these Nazis are going to react to her. Now, luckily, the German soldiers, the Nazi soldiers, do not find out that Ellen is a Jewish little girl, and instead they more or less just scare her and they run straight home. All right, chapter 2, we learn a little bit more about the background of our girls. We learn that Kirsty is a whiny little sister that I'm sure some of us can connect to. I know I can, who just really wants to spend as much time with her older sister as possible. But we learn that Kirsty kind of can get them in trouble. And we learn that Kirsty always kind of wants it her way. We have Anne-Marie telling Kirsty the story of the beautiful queen and the beautiful king that live in a castle as she tells them this bedtime story. We also have Papa tell a story of his own, and Anne-Marie's Papa telling them the story of the king of Denmark, the king of who lives in Copenhagen and rides through the streets. Chapter 3, we see the Nazis take greater hold of the city that they are living in which we see Kirsty needing a new button for her jacket, and instead of going to Mrs. Hirsch's store and just getting a replacement button, we find out that Mrs. Hirsch and her family have been forced to shut down her store and have been forced to go into hiding because the Hirsch family, we find out, is of the Jewish faith, and the Nazis have chosen to shut down her store. Chapter 4, it is now Anne-Marie's birthday, and she has chosen Ellen as her friend to spend the night at the house. And instead of having this fun little birthday party, we know that on the apartment building, in the same apartment building, the apartment next door, there is a knock from these two almost suspicious people, as we find out that they are Jewish people trying to escape the Nazi regime. We also have Kirsty get frightened and want to be taken home. As the day goes on, we know that Papa takes Ellen home to her parents and has a discussion with her parents, where we know that Ellen comes back to the house where she is going to be hidden by Anne-Marie and her family, while Ellen's parents are going to go into hiding from the Nazis. All right. Who is the dark-haired one? Now, this was that really, really almost nerve-wracking chapter where we have Nazi soldiers show up to the home of Anne-Marie and her family, and now Ellen, as Ellen is living with them. These Nazi soldiers are looking for Ellen and her family. They've gone to Ellen's apartment, and they know that Ellen and her family are no longer at the apartment. But they do know that the Johansons are very much friends with the Rosens. So they knock on the door looking for the Rosen family. And Papa, our brave Papa, opens the door and allows these Nazi soldiers to come in. And the Nazi soldiers are looking around, looking for anything out of place, looking for perhaps a hidden compartment for the Johansen family to hide the Rosens. They do not see a hidden compartment or anything. However, they do see Ellen and Anne-Marie. And Papa, the quick thinker that he is, pulls out the family photo album and rips out 3 pictures. One of our little sister Kirsty, the second picture of our lovely Anne-Marie, and the third picture, which is just of a baby girl that in the bottom of the picture, it is written Lies. Lies Johansen was Anne-Marie's older sister that we found out about earlier, who has since passed away. But in this picture that Papa shows the Nazi soldiers, all the Nazi soldiers see is a young child. They do not know that Lies Johansen is dead, and instead it's Papa trying to pass off Liza's baby picture for Ellen, who they are keeping hidden in plain sight. Moving on to chapter 6, Papa calls Uncle Henrik, who lives by the sea. Uncle Henrik is a fisherman. A fisherman lives a train station away. Papa calls and makes this very suspicious phone call. Uncle Henrik, is it good weather for fishing? Oh yes, Uncle Henrik, I'll be sending you some cigarettes. Now we know in this time period, cigarettes are not common. They're very hard to find. And after this frightening night, the girls find it very suspicious that Papa would call and ask about fishing, of all things. We later learn that cigarettes are just code words for Jews, the Jewish people. And we learn that fishing is not actually fishing, but instead Uncle Henrik is smuggling Jewish people out of Copenhagen and to Norway, where it is safe. Anne-Marie and her mother, Kirsty, and Ellen all board a train where they ride this train to Henrik's village, where Henrik lives. On this train ride, the girls travel through their countryside, seeing castles and kings and queens, and then they finally are able to arrive in Uncle Henrik's village and walk to the home where Anne-Marie's mother grew up in. Chapter 7. Now this is our last chapter for review. Remember that this was just to me a quick video for you guys to refresh your brains. Chapter 7 is Mama and Ellen and Anne-Marie and Kirsty starting to clean the house by the sea. They start to get settled in as we are traveling, as they have arrived from their traveling. They are exploring Uncle Henrik's house. Uncle Henrik is out fishing but returns towards the end of this chapter. And Anne-Marie just really reflects in this chapter about how much she enjoys her Uncle Henrik and how she enjoys hearing them talking, but tonight's conversation, as she's overhearing, is a different conversation, a different tone. So that is just the first little summary pages, summary of the first couple of pages of Number the Stars. For my next video, I'll actually be able to read chapter 8 to you guys. So don't forget to tune in.